Hi everyone. So I have repurposed a recording from a while ago that was actually recorded in 2020, if you can believe that. And it is still as relevant today as it was when I recorded it for the Page Builder Summit. And I wanted to just share that for my web developer friends and web designer friends who are just looking to speed up their processes, improve their processes, etc. Hey everyone. Okay, so today we're talking about how to create shamelessly quick websites using page builders. So I've built a business around doing exactly that using my page builder of choice, Beaver Builder Fangirl, right here. And I'm going to take you through some of the things that I use in order to really create fast turnaround websites for my clients. And then also towards the end of the video, just take you through some of the things that are really helpful to me if you are considering, if you're a web developer and you're considering changing your model to a fast turnaround one. So let's get started just very briefly. Who am I? I'm Chantal, and I have a business called One Day Webs. And as the business states, I do fast turnaround websites. So I build websites in a day. The websites that I typically build in a day are 5-page brochure style websites or long form sales pages. You know, a sales page of about 5,000 words typically takes me a day to do as well. I do have other offerings. I also do longer builds for clients, but for my regular brochure style websites, those happen in a day. I also have another spin-off called Shamelessly Quick WordPress, and that's a course that I've created on Driven Entrepreneur Academy, and that is really for any DIYer out there who wants to really learn how to, work with WordPress. So it's installing WordPress, setting up your hosting, installing WordPress, installing themes and plugins, which ones to choose, and all of that good stuff. So that's me and my business. And now let's talk about how it is that I use page builders specifically to create shamelessly quick WordPress websites for clients. So there's a couple of tools that really speed things up for me, and I'm going to go through some of those tools because that's probably what you're going to be interested in. One of the tools that speeds things up for me is something called the Page Builder Cloud. So I use a plugin called Page Builder Cloud, and Page Builder Cloud is pretty cool because what it enables me to do is save any pages or layouts that I've created on any site of mine into my cloud, my Page Builder Cloud, and then bring those down onto any site I'm working on. So I tend not to actually use pre-built templates, etc., because I prefer to build things from scratch typically, because I like to build things in a particular way for my clients to make it easy for them to update. So what I do is I actually use Page Builder Cloud to create a template library for myself. So any pages that I like the layout of that I've created, I go ahead and save them to my cloud. You can create categories, so you can actually categorize your layouts, your pages, etc. So it makes it super easy to find those layouts. And that's one of the ways that speeds up using a page builder for me with WordPress, is because I have basically a template library of my own templates and pages that I've created. So when I'm working on a new project, if I think back to a project I've done previously and I think, wow, that section on that page would work really well here, I can just go ahead and pull that down from the cloud and use it immediately on that site without having to go and log into that other site, export a layout, etc., etc. So that's one of the ways that I really speed up my development, is using this tool called Page Builder Cloud, which enables me to easily share templates amongst the sites that I do. Okay, so the one thing I wanted to do a comparison on was Page Builder Cloud and Assistant Pro. So at the time of filming this in 2020, I exclusively used the Page Builder Cloud to save all of my layouts into the cloud. And there are still a lot of my layouts in my Page Builder Cloud, but I have subsequently moved over to a new shiny object, and that is Assistant Pro, which is from the Beaver Builder team.
and of tools. And I'm just going to do a quick comparison because this is a question that comes up very frequently. So I have made the switch to Assistant, and I'm going to talk you through why I've made the switch, and then also just show you a comparison of the tools so that you know the upsides and the downsides to both of the tools. Neither one of them is absolutely perfect, by the way. Right, so Page Builder Cloud, as you've just seen in the demo you've watched, once you've got it installed on your website, you can go along to the Page Builder Cloud menu item, and you'll see all of your layouts, and you can import them in, etc. Now, the benefits to Page Builder Cloud are, for example, you can save more than just builders, page layouts into the cloud. You can also save things like gravity forms, default forms, etc. So if you actually go and have a look at some of the integrations here, you can see the various form plugins. Now, Assistant is more around your page layouts and also your media, colors, and your theme settings. So you can see they're slightly different. Now, the main bugbear for me with Page Builder Cloud is the lack of organization, let's call it that. So you can see the interface of Page Builder Cloud. It's a little bit clunky. It's not the prettiest. Let's be honest. It's really average. And you do have the ability to categorize your layouts and also to sort of filter by the types of builders. And you can toggle a list or a grid view. But that is pretty much it. So you have to be really fastidious or intelligent with your naming conventions for your templates in order to organize these properly, or your categories. I just found it a little bit clunky working this way, not very organized, etc. That's the one downside. The other big downside for me with Page Builder Cloud is that it is API based on the website. So once you've popped your API key into the settings, it doesn't matter who logs in on that website, every user can pretty much see Page Builder Cloud. So for me, I would leave this, installed on a client site or forget to uninstall it, and they then have full access to my cloud, including being able to delete layouts, etc. And I would forget it on sites, and that's just, I don't want everyone for every site I've ever built to have access to my cloud layouts, forever and always. And, other developers and other users logging in and being able to actually, download and export and what have you. So that's a big downer to me. I would have liked the access to Page Builder Cloud to be user based, so only this user logged in on this website has access to the cloud, which is exactly what Assistant is. So if you are logged in on the website and you have the free Assistant plugin installed, you can go to Assistant. And if you're not already connected to the cloud, on this icon here, it'll say connect to Assistant Pro. And if they don't actually authorize that, by logging into my Assistant Pro account, which they don't have logins to, they will not be able to access my cloud. So it's user-based, and you have to log in and authenticate it. So for me, that's just a much more secure. I'm much happier about the way that stuff is saved into Assistant Pro. The other thing I love about Assistant Pro is just how organized it is. So you can go and create folders. You can make public folders, which anyone can access, or private folders. And in those folders, you can pop in various elements. So you can pop in, I'm going to go ahead to a site that I just backed up into the cloud today. So once you've finished your website, you can literally go and pop in all your header layout, your footer layout, your theme settings, all your pages, any images that you used. And a nice thing about Assistant is you can actually put your SVG logos into Assistant and then just import them into the media library without having to actually go and install a plugin to allow you to add SVG images. So little things like that really just save a bit of time and effort on websites. You can also save theme settings, save colors, etc. So you can go and add all your hex colors, etc. So effectively, when you finish the site, you have a full backup of your site. So it's not just page layouts, it's also theme settings, it's theme layout. So if you're using something with full site editing or the ability to create your headers and footers, etc., you can also save those layouts into Assistant Pro. The only downside of Assistant Pro, or the only thing that for me is lacking in Assistant Pro, is somewhere to save my snippets, but I do believe they've said that is coming. So in Page Builder Cloud, if we go back to the Page Builder Cloud on this website, there is the ability to add snippets, which is kind of handy. So you've always got a snippet library in your site, and anything that you normally, go and pop in your functions file or pop in your CSS or whatever, that's all saved in snippets in Page Builder Cloud, and you can just copy and paste that into your settings. So that is one thing that for me is missing from Assistant Pro, but I just wanted to film this little update on this particular part of the training just to give you the rundown of the main differences, in my opinion, between Page Builder Cloud and Assistant Pro, and the reason why I decided to make the move to Assistant Pro. And yeah, I really love how organized it is and also how much quicker it is. So I also found with Page Builder Cloud, what I would need to do is, for example, save something as a template and then go and upload that template to the cloud. Whereas with Assistant, I literally just go and add a page. So if I'm just going to go into a random folder here, and you click on the plus, and if I wanted to add my about page from this website to this particular folder in Assistant Pro, that's all I have to do. Now that page has been saved into this particular folder, and it is ready to be used on any website. So very, very quick, very easy to use. I'm really, really enjoying it. So that's the real big differences between Assistant Pro and Page Builder Cloud.
One of the biggest things that save me time, though, is having my clients pre-prepared. So my business model is really centered around clients that are ready to have me build and that are pre-prepared. Everything about my process, my sales copy, everything about my offer is there to appeal to people that are prepared and ready to build. So that's another way that I can build websites really quickly, because I'm, for example, not creating content for my clients, and I'm not trying to drag that content out of them. And I think that is one of the things that can really take up quite a lot of time when you're building websites, is all that preparation ahead of time. So my process really kicks in once they already have their content ready, they have their images ready, and everything about my process speaks to that kind of client. So when they book me, they are ready to have me build, or they will be ready by the date that they are booking me. They book me for a particular date, and by the time we get to that date, all of that content and preparation is done ahead of time, so I can immediately get onto building. Something that speeds up my processes as well is just having as much as possible automated in the whole process. So I go ahead, and anything that I'm doing more than once, I go ahead and automate. So when I'm onboarding my clients, that whole process is really automated. A lot of stuff happens automatically, and I have a fantastic team of VAs that help me also follow up with clients, etc. So that is a huge time saving, is the pre-preparation and the onboarding of my clients. So I get to do what I really love, which is actually just hopping in and designing pages. I love that part, so I don't actually outsource that. How else I do this really quickly is just being very good about time blocking my time. So people book me for specific days or specific time slots, and I am just really, really almost militant about my diary and my availability and what I take on in that period. I think you have to be the right kind of personality type to do this kind of business, because you need to be able to focus to the exclusion of everything else on that project. We all know that when you have a lot of messages coming in and you're juggling a lot of different projects, that can actually be quite time consuming, and we all have days where it feels like we haven't achieved anything, but we've been paddling furiously. So that is really the key, is managing my time, managing my diary, and managing the tasks that I do on a daily basis. So that's the main ways that I really speed up my ability to be able to create really fast turnaround WordPress websites. It's really what takes most people a lot of time is getting that content ready. And then, of course, sitting down and creating layouts from scratch. So if you can get those two parts of your process sorted, getting the content ready or not having that be your responsibility, and then starting to find a way or a method to be able to easily reuse your work going forward, you can really drastically speed up the time it takes you to produce WordPress websites. Beaver Builder for me is the absolute key. I've been working with Beaver Builder for, I think it's over 4 years now. And I've built hundreds of Beaver Builder sites now. And that for me is really the key, is working with that tool on a daily basis. You become an expert, you become really, really fast at working with it. Also, troubleshooting, etc. So it just makes the whole process really, really fast. So once you are able to produce a really quick WordPress website, you might be thinking about changing your model to something like I do, where you've got a fast turnaround business model. And so I want to really talk about that today for the web developers out there who are considering changing their model to something that's more along the lines of a fast turnaround website, and just giving you some of my sort of top tips of things that I would recommend or not recommend, or that you should consider before you change over to that kind of model. First thing is, should this be your jam? And it's not for everyone. And the thing is, if it was suited to everyone, we would all be building websites in a fast turnaround model. Why wouldn't we? We would all want to create websites in a day. But it definitely doesn't suit every kind of developer, and it definitely doesn't suit every kind of client. So the first thing to consider if you're considering moving over to this kind of model is, first of all, are you the right kind of person that this model would suit? I believe the right kind of person needs to be very action-oriented, very determined, very ambitious, very driven, and very not afraid of risk, a risk taker at nature. If you are that kind of person, then that could definitely be the right kind of model for you to move into as a web developer, to speed up your web development. I would say the other important thing to consider is the kind of clients who want to use a fast turnaround website service. What kind of clients are those, and will you enjoy working with those clients? So typically I find the kind of clients that work, that want to work with me are also very action oriented, very A-type personality, want things yesterday, want it the way they want it. They're typically fast decision makers. They're also risk takers. So you're really looking at that kind of personality type. So if you don't work well with that kind of personality type, then that might not be a model that works very well for you. And there have been people who have tried this model and failed. So for me, I think at the heart of it, it comes down to your personality, how you like to work, and your client's personality and how they like to work, and whether the two can marry. So I would start by, first of all, if you don't already know your personality profile, is getting yourself personality profiled, getting yourself profiled in some way. There's a million different profiles you can use to do that, from Myers-Briggs to whatever. Get out there, get yourself profiled, and see if you think this is the kind of model that could work for you. My next tip for anyone wanting to do really fast turnaround websites and sort of change their business model to a fast turnaround website model is choosing your tech stack well. So, this is totally vital, right? Because if you are producing, dozens of sites every month, or, even if it's 10 sites, I mean, most people don't produce, 10, 15, 20, 30 sites a month. If you are, you're going to have 30 sites worth of problems to deal with. So the very last thing you want is to be building these on a tech stack where when an update runs, suddenly things are breaking and you're going to have, 15 clients raising their hands for support. So choosing your tech stack well, if you're doing this kind of model, is essential because you're going to be producing more websites, you're going to have a larger client base and potentially a larger base of problems. So choose your tech stack really, really well. My personal, as I've mentioned, page builder of choice is Beaver Builder. I use the entire Beaver Builder framework as it were, the theme, the plugin, and Beaver Builder Themer, which for me is another huge time saver, using a consistent stack like that. And probably the main reason why I've chosen Beaver Builder is, actually there's two main reasons. One is it's super easy for my clients to make changes going forward to their sites and layouts, etc. My clients generally find the user interface really, really easy. It's got that lovely what you see is what you get interface. They click on things, they can edit them. It's really pretty basic and self-explanatory. So that's a huge, huge one for me. And the other thing that's absolutely massive is that this Beaver Builder framework is super stable. It's developer friendly. It's not built to bring out the latest bells and whistles every 2 weeks. They're not bringing out updates every 2 weeks. For me, that is a plus. What I want is a stable solution for my clients where I don't have to hold my breath and cross my fingers every time I hit update on a website and hope that something doesn't break. You also want to make sure that the tools you've chosen have excellent support, so that it's backed by a team that's all about support, etc. And for me, that is Beaver Builder, hands down. I'm not going anywhere. Total Beaver Builder fangirl here. So that is absolutely essential for me. You should definitely look at your tech stack and critically examine your tech stack on a regular basis. Let's say every 6 months, look at the tools that you're using on your sites and make sure that they are tools that are going to make it, that are helping you and not hurting you. So have you had a tool where over the last 6 months it's given you a lot of errors, etc.? Then that is a tool that you need to consider swapping out potentially. If it's a tool that's given you no headaches, continue to use it. The thing to be careful of, and in this industry, as we all know, there's always new themes, new plugins, new shiny things on the horizon. And the thing you need to be really careful of is not to run after the next big shiny thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Make sure you definitely are assessing your tech stack, but if your tech stack is solid, just stick with it. There's no need to jump ship and hop onto the next shiny thing if it doesn't actually improve your service to your clients or the way you do business, etc. So tech stack, critical. The next critical part is obviously having a process that is very clearly defined. You need to know exactly what your process is, have repeatable processes, and also be able to outsource parts of your process. That is really key in having a business that's successful with a fast turnaround. If you are building sites almost every day, you obviously are not going to have time to, log in ahead of time, install plugins, install themes, sort out hosting issues, etc., etc. So you really want a clearly laid out and defined process structure so that you have the ability to outsource parts of your process to a tech VA, for example, who can go ahead and do those tasks that are perhaps repetitive tasks and don't need your skill. At the end of the day, the client is paying you for a result, and your time needs to be best spent on the thing that you cannot outsource. So in my case, clients pay me really for my design, is a big thing with my clients, being creatives, etc. They're looking for me to bring a design ethic to their sites. And so that is really what I spend most of my time and focus on. And I leave installing plugins and themes and basic setup and admin chasing and content chasing and all of that other kind of stuff that can take up so much time to my VA to do for me. So having a very clear process helps with that. And then also automating everything. Everything that you can automate should automate. So look at your onboarding process, look at how you bring clients in on your business and what can you do to automate that. Zapier, as we probably all know, is the most incredible tool to automate anything. So I'm going to give you a little sneak peek I use ClickUp. And this is my template for a website build, just to give you an idea of how we've sort of split things up in our business. So we have an onboarding section with specific tasks. We have a pre-build section with specific tasks that need to be, ticked off. We have a tech setup section. So this, for example, this whole thing is something I outsource to my VAs before I even build. And really where I get involved is build day. So all of this pre-setup is tasks that all get attended to by my VAs. Once a booking comes in, this gets created for every client automatically using Zapier. And dates get pre-populated, due dates get pre-populated, and certain tasks are assigned to members of my team so that the whole process is automated. Everyone knows what they're doing and when, and I can log in anytime to a client's project, and go and see if we have hosting logins, if we have WordPress logins, if they've uploaded content, if we have images optimized, or whatever the case is. So it's key to have your process really down and to automate as much as possible. And then obviously outsource the tasks that you can. So that's absolutely related to that. Then the other thing I'd say is very, very important if you're considering this kind of model is knowing your numbers and knowing your data. So the key for that is tracking your time. We all think we know how long it takes to do something, but do you actually know how much time you've spent on it? So I love a tool. I use a tool called Timing App. And what I love about Timing App, I don't have the diligence or the time, quite frankly, to go and start and stop timers every time I start and stop a project. And especially if I'm hopping between projects and troubleshooting with clients or whatever, I want my time automatically tracked on those clients. So I use Timing App. I don't have to start and stop anything, and it tracks all of my time spent on any of my machines. All my machines have this app on, and everything is synced to the Timing App cloud, so it's tracking all my time. I can then allocate time based on a URL, client name, Dropbox folder location, you name it. You can set up that location, etc., that it automatically tracks to a particular client, and then you can see exactly how much time you've spent in a week or a day on that client or on a project from start to finish, for example. It's only when you know your numbers exactly that you can consider a fast turnaround business. So I know my numbers exactly. I know on a typical brochure style website that is going to take me 8 to 10 hours, and I know exactly how much time I need to allocate that, and I can actually offer a fast turnaround service based on that. At the end of the day, you need to deliver what you are selling. So a lot of people ask me about the practicalities of how do I practically do this in a day, and do I do it in a day? So let me just take you through the basics of how it works. I live in South Africa, and many of my clients are from overseas and international. So often there's actually a time delay. So typically it actually happens over 2 days. I may wait, till the next day for feedback on a homepage, for example, before continuing with the rest of the pages. But overall, that project takes me 8 to 10 hours, and it's typically over 2 days. So how that works practically is the clients pre-prepare everything, as I've mentioned previously. So when it comes to build day, I have absolutely everything I need. I check in a few days before, make sure that content is there. My VAs also ensure that everything is installed that I need to work with, and that the staging site, etc., is ready for me to work with, or whatever hosting I'm working with is ready. And then we go from there. Then on the first day or the first morning, if it happens in the same time frame as me, it can still happen in physically one day. So what happens in that first morning is I go ahead and, based on all of that information that they've sent me, design inspiration, any branding, colors, images, words, blah, 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 I go ahead and create the first page, which is typically the home page or a sales page. and I create that design and complete it. That is normally the longest part of the process. The design part is the part that takes the longest. I make sure I'm happy with it and that I feel like it, does exactly what they've asked me to do. And then I send it off for them to give me feedback. Which brings me to the most time effective way for me to get feedback, because that is the next thing that can take a lot of time, is waiting for clients to get feedback to you and, iterating through those changes. So I use a tool called WP Feedback. There's various tools you can use. There's Project Huddle and various other tools you can use. So I've installed WP Feedback on this demo site just to show you if you haven't seen a tool like this before. What it is it's a front-end based feedback tool. So my clients, I can send them the link to the sales page. They don't even have to be logged in. I can actually set this up that they can add feedback as a guest when we're working on, for example, just a hidden page on their site or whatever the case is. And so I send them very basic instructions telling them how to use the tool, and then they're able to actually send feedback, visual feedback on the page. So this is crucial for me because a lot of my clients are creatives. This really speeds things up. Also, they don't then need to sort of, type things up in a Word doc and all this sort of time of that, explaining what they want. So it's very easy to use. They literally just click on the plus, they highlight anything they want to add a comment on, and they put in their comment. So maybe it's like change this wording, blah, 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 and they add a comment. As soon as they do that, I get a notification in my email to say that this comment has been added, so I can immediately go and see that feedback. I can go into the page, I can see all a list of, whatever tasks they've added on that page, and I can just literally go through and attend to those. I automatically allocate those tasks to their user on WordPress, so when I comment, etc., they actually get notifications back saying this is now sorted, etc., etc. So it's all really just about, the whole speeding up and being able to create a WordPress website really shamelessly quick is all just about having really easy processes, both for yourself to produce the website and also for your clients to get you feedback. So typically I wait on feedback. My clients are normally sort of on standby to give me this feedback. I give them a window period of when I'll be ready for that feedback, and then they send me the feedback. Once we've done the changes, and normally from a design perspective, there's really minimal design changes. I'm really fortunate that my process is such that I seem to attract the right clients for my process. And if they give me the information and I have a chat with them, I'm really intuitive, and I'm generally able to create exactly what they wanted. So typically there's very few design changes. This round of feedback is normally pretty quick for me. And as soon as we are both happy, both the client and myself are happy with the page that I've created, then I go ahead and I use that page almost as a template to go ahead and create the rest of the pages. So typically, from a practical perspective, what I do is I save that page as a template, I go ahead and create a new page, and I use that template as a base. I move things around, change content, occasionally do a different row here and there, but the design ethic or the look and feel of the site typically stays fairly consistent, and it's just a matter of swapping things around, bringing in new content, etc. So I'm able to then go ahead and produce the rest of those pages fairly quickly. And depending on the complexity of the site, going ahead and creating those additional pages is sometimes even something that I can outsource to my tech VA, where they go and actually populate the content into the pages for me, and then I can go and tweak the page after they've done that. So from a practical perspective, that is how I go ahead and build that site in a day. Quite crazy, I know, for some people to consider. I know that it's not the norm. A lot of people take 6 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever the case is to build out websites, but by removing a lot of the stumbling blocks and the things that take a lot of time, like content gathering, I'm able to really build these websites really, really quick. So another tip, if you're considering this model for your web development business, is to price for the job or price for the project and not for the time. So you'd be pretty silly if you charged based on hours when you are able to, because of your years of experience and your amazing process, produce a website in 8 hours where somebody takes, 100 hours. And they're charging something that's going to cover 100 hours for them. So that's why I say you should definitely look at, prices out there in the market and what your clients are prepared to pay, and price your pricing based on the market and not on the hours. Just because I'm able to do something faster does not mean I should be penalized in terms of what that costs the client. And in fact, they should be paying a premium for it because they're getting it much quicker than they would anywhere else. So definitely something to consider there. Don't undercharge. Also, people don't value things that are too cheap. So just, look sharp with your pricing would be my advice. And then also something that's vitally important in the speed of being able to do these websites is, I've touched on it briefly already, is being able to niche down. So because I have a very specific niche of clients that I work with, I know what they want. Typically, I know what works for them. I know what works for their types of businesses. And so all of that knowledge of that niche of mine means that I'm able to just get on there and build those websites really quick without having to sort of figure out an industry, as it were. So the more niche you can get, the more expert you can become in your niche, and the faster it will be to produce these websites. And then I'd say another recommendation is really just to be consistent. So once you've got a process that works, make sure you're consistent. Make sure you keep using your project management plugin, whether it be Asana, ClickUp, whatever. Be just diligent about using those tools and being consistent. That's really going to help you to be a success. And then the last tip I would have is raising rates regularly. This kind of model, you can get really bogged down in the day-to-day of producing all these websites, and you can actually forget to focus on your own business and sort of pay attention on your own business. So I would definitely say you need to really at least every 3 months or once a quarter, once every 3 times a year, twice a year, whatever, make sure you're looking at your rates critically and that you're raising those rates accordingly. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're charging the same thing a year from now. You do want to be able to improve yourself in the business and increase your business. So definitely look at your rates. And that's really like my sort of top tips, as it were, about how to create a successful business around creating really fast turnaround websites. I hope I've given you a few tips to consider if you're thinking about this kind of business model for yourself, and also some great tips of how to speed up your WordPress website building using a page builder.